Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to work with VCP 6.7 and 7 and configure vMotion. Now vMotion is a technology in which we can move from one VM to another running VM from one ESXi host to another ESXi host without disconnection, without any downtime. Now vMotion has some requirements. These are the main requirements for vMotion. In order to have vMotion in your environment, you must have a vCenter, VCSA appliance running, or if you're working with a previous version of ESXi host, then you should have either Windows vCenter or the appliance-based vCenter. 6.5 and above, you need to have VCSA, and you need to have at least two or more ESXi hosts so that you can move VMs from one ESXi host to another. And ideally, the servers, the physical server, the ESXi host should be identical. Either all the servers should be Intel or all the servers should be AMD. But there are some Intel CPU versions, the models that an AMD model that can fit into one vCenter for vMotion and DRS. For that, you can refer to the compatibility list, VMware compatibility list. And then you need to have CPU characteristics should match, which means that either all should be Intel CPU or AMD CPU, or they have matching characteristics. The VM kernel port, you need to enable vMotion on all ESXi hosts. So you need to go into networking, go into management, and on this port, vMotion should be enabled. You should have a shared storage for both ESXi host, and you need to have you need to have a same port group exist on all ESXi hosts from where the VM is moving, and of course the host should be licensed. So let's get started. So I'm going to go by verifying all these requirements. First vCenter to a more ESXi host, and then verifying the CPU, and then we will configure these options as well. So in my environment, I have vCenter on this. If you're following this lab, so you should have vCenter running. So I'm logging into my VCSA appliance. Here I have ESXi1, ESXi2, ESXi3. On ESXi1, this is Intel server. On ESXi2, here you can see it's Intel. In the real environment, you will be able to see that on the server itself, or you can also verify this from VCSA. And the third server is also Intel. Of course, this is VMware Workstation. This is VMware Workstation based lab, and in this all the CPU will be similar because they're all using my host CPU, my laptop CPU. So once you log in here, first of all, we verified that VCSA is working, so that's the first requirement. Secondly, we need to have two or more ESXi hosts, so I have three ESXi hosts. All of the ESXi hosts are added to vCenter. And the third thing is that you need to make sure that Intel CPU. So we are going to go onto one ESXi host and go into summary. Within the summary, it shows you this is Intel core, and this is the model of the CPU. So this is Intel. If you go to the second one, you can also verify that this is Intel server, and the third one is also Intel server. So this is where you can verify, and you need to verify that in the real environment as well. The next option is, since they're all the same CPU, the CPU characteristics are exactly the same. The next option is making sure on the management network vMotion is enabled. So for that, I'm going to go into networking. Within networking, we can make sure you are here within management VNet. So this is a management VNet, and on this we need to go on to the server. So select your management VNet. I mean, there are many ways you can go here. You can either go by the server itself. You can go to the networking and click here on the server. The best way to do it is go to host and cluster. So you need to be on host and cluster. Go to your first ESXi host and go to configure. Now within configure, go down to networking. networking, and within networking you can go to your VM kernel port. So VM kernel port is basically your management port, and on this port, on this server, on this management port, you need to have vMotion enabled. So here vMotion is disabled. In order to enable this, I'm going to select this port here. I'm going to select this and click edit. And when you click edit, make sure vMotion is enabled. So I'm going to click OK. And we're going to do the same thing for the other two ESXi hosts. So going to the second ESXi host, the good thing about doing it here in hosting cluster, so whenever you select anything here, the same settings will be selected for the other host as well. So this is second host, this is the management VM kernel port, and here vMotion is disabled. So I'm just going to go to edit and enable vMotion on this. So vMotion is enabled, and we are going to check that out for the third ESXi host. And the third ESXi host, vMotion is disabled. Select the port and click edit and complete. So vMotion is enabled. Now one more, just check one more time. I'm going to go back to the first host. vMotion is enabled. So same, we did that for all of the ESXi hosts. Next option is that we need to provide shared storage. In order to provide a shared storage, let's go back to our requirement here. So from this, so the third option is we did completed the first four and the shared storage for both servers. So in my case, I have a shared storage from, so I have a shared storage from Windows Server. So I enabled shared storage. And how do you do that? Quickly, you can refer to my previous video for storage. But here I'm using this Windows Server on the same Windows Server. I'm going to go to Server Manager, and within Server Manager, you need to go down to Files and Storage Services. Within File and Storage Services, go to iSCSI, and within iSCSI, I have iSCSI target configured. Now, if it is not configured, and if it is you're doing it for the first time, you need to go to the dashboard, go to Add Roles and Features, and go to Next. And once you reach at this point, go to File and Storage Services. From here, you need to enable this iSCSI target installed. So this is, you need to enable this option. Once you enable this option, I enabled it in my previous video. You can refer to my video for storage part 1. In the part 1 or part 2, I think you can just follow that video. So once you enable this, you need to come down here and configure iSCSI storage. So this is one thing. The second thing, once you configure iSCSI storage, you need to allow the iSCSI initiator access to this iSCSI storage. So these two iSCSI initiators are for ESXi1 and ESXi2. I also need to get ESXi for 3, the third initiator. I need to add this here. In order to add that here, you need to go to, I'm going to go to the third server. So the first two are configured. If you're doing it for the first time, what I'm doing with the third one, you need to do that you need to do that for all of them. So you need to go to the third server, ESXi host, and then go to the storage adapter. Within storage adapter, you need to, first of all, here I don't see iSCSI software adapter, but if I go to ESXi1, I can see a software storage adapter. Since I'm doing this for the first time on ESXi03. So on ESXi03, I need to add iSCSI storage adapter, and for that I'll click here. So you need to go here and then go here. And within that, so it will ask you for the first time, you need to add this adapter. This is automatically selected. And once it is selected, we can add this adapter right here. So once you add this cannot be removed, and there is no harm in adding iSCSI adapter to this. So once this is added, then we need to go down to, so I'm gonna just make it a bigger screen so that we can see the complete screen here. And I'm going to move this here. So you need to select that iSCSI storage adapter that we just added, and we need this IQN number. Now, in order to copy that IQN number, you can go to the properties, and right from here, we need to copy that IQN number. So I'm going to copy that. So right click and copy, and you need to take that back to your iSCSI configuration. So here iSCSI target, how did I came here? One more time, we can go to server manager, you can go to iSCSI and go to iSCSI target. Now I have already configured this, but if you don't have a configuration of iSCSI target, please refer to the other video. It's very simple. Once you add the services, then you can, here you will find a link, just click and then you can add it. Before that, you also need to add a raw disk to this and make it a volume. So in this case, I'm just going to go here, properties, and initiator, and add. So once you do add here, I'm just going to copy this IQN number right here. So this is copied now. So all three ESXi hosts are added, and now you know where to get the IQN number. Once this is done, this is configured. The next thing here is I'm going to go back to the volumes and make sure which disk is available. So here I have two disks, disk 1 and disk 2. So here I'm not going to add another disk, because if I add another disk, then I have to restart ESXi, then I have to restart this Windows server. So actually, you know, I can try. I'm trying to minimize the length of this video. So for that reason, I was not adding it. But let's see. Okay, I'm gonna add another raw disk and see that if I don't have to. I think I don't have to restart Windows Server, but whatever we add on ESXi host, we need to restart a Windows Server. So in this case, on this Windows Server where you are setting up iSCSI, it can be a Windows Server or a domain controller as well. I would suggest not a domain controller, a simple server. So I have two disks here, so I'm going to add a third disk. So this disk will be, so I'm going to add another disk, and this disk will be, I'm going to add it, make it 70, so that it is different from others. So it is 70 GB. Once the disk is added, it should appear in the disks. So once you add this disk here, what you need to do is the disk will be a raw disk added to the disk section. First of all, you need to make it a volume, and then you need to make it a shared disk. In other words, we call it logical unit number, or LUN, to be shared to all ESXi hosts. So here, since the disk is added, I'm going to find that disk right here. Let's see if I can find it right here. This is just refreshing the settings. I hope I don't have to restart the server, and so it's not available in, oh, it is available. Okay, so that's fine. So we added a disk. So again, you need to enable that iSCSI feature. Before that, you need to add these disks. So you need to add 100 GB, 100 GB, and 70 GB. So once you add a disk, right click on the disk. You need to bring it online. And once you bring it online, you need to right click and create a volume out of this. So here we are going to make it just a simple volume. Next, and finish. Once the disk is ready, then we need to share it with ESXi host. So the disk is ready now. So I'm going to go back to iSCSI here, and within iSCSI, I am going to, so within this, so on this screen, I have only one disk available, which is F drive. So now I'm going to create another disk. So here you need to say a new iSCSI virtual disk. And from here, I'm going to select the one that I just added, which is E drive 69 GB. This is almost 70 GB. And I'm going to name this iSCSI disk 2, and done. And here I'm going to use the complete disk space. So I'm going to just 69.6 instead of 7, and here we can do dynamically expanding. So, and next, and create. So the new virtual disk is ready to be shared with all ESXi hosts. Now once this is all done, our iSCSI target part is completed. So now what I need to do, I need to go to each ESXi host and add that disk. Now in order to add the disk, first of all, I need to, so I'm going to do that first on this server. And so on the ESXi host, once you complete the iSCSI part, you need to go to here, select this adapter, and we added that adapter just I think a few minutes back. And once it is added, you need to go to dynamic discovery. In this, you need to provide the IP address of your iSCSI server. So in my case, my iSCSI server is the same server, and I'm gonna go back here. Remember, where you add the feature, that becomes your iSCSI server. I'm gonna check the IP address. So my IP address is this 192.168.10.52, and that IP address we need to provide here as a add send target server. So 192.168.10.52. So this is 52. This is your iSCSI target server. Once this is done, then right here you will see a warning saying that you need to rescan the adapter. So here is rescan adapter. You need to rescan the adapter. In the notification, in the recent task, you will see this task completed, and you also need to rescan the storage. Once you rescan the storage, then you will be able to see the devices here, the shared disk. So both shared disks are here. One is 99 GB, and this is the one that we just added, 69 GB. Now we need to do the same thing on the other two ESXi hosts. So I'm going to go to my first ESXi host. I already have an adapter here. I'm going to go here, and within this, go to dynamic discovery, add the iSCSI target server. And in here, once the target server is added, we are going to rescan the adapter. As soon as you rescan the adapter, you don't need to rescan the storage, because it will bring both of the disks here. So I can see 69 GB and 99 GB. This was detached last time. Actually, I detached it so that I can show you how this can be added here. So I'm just going to attach this disk again. So both disks are available. We are going to do the same thing on this other ESXi host as well. So go to iSCSI adapter, iSCSI and online, go to dynamic discovery, add, and so this is, we are fulfilling the requirement of shared storage. So now here, and rescan the adapter. You just need to make sure in devices this is available. So once they are available within the devices, once they are available, if you don't have this like this, so ignore this, because this is just for me, because I detached it previously. This is why I have to attach it. In your case, you might have one disk or two disks, depending on how many disks you see here. So depending on how many disks you see in here, so here, if these two disks are present over there, so the disk number 1, F and E, these two disks are there. So depending on how many disks you are here, you will see that in here as well. Now the next task is, so since on all ESXi hosts we have installed the adapter, and also we added the dynamic discovery, enabled the dynamic discovery by adding the IP address and the devices. Now we need to make both of the disk data store. So I'm gonna add this disk as a data store, so 69 GB. So you need to select this. And okay, so not from here, we need to remember, we need to make a data store from the server. So once you select the server, right click on the server, and here you can say storage, and within the storage you need to create a new data store. So in my case, I'm going to name this will be VMFS volume, and in this case I'm going to select this second disk. So I can actually first the 70 GB, and then later we can format the 99 GB as well. So this will be my iSCSI storage, iSCSI shared disk 1. So this is shared disk 1, and next, this is VMFS 5 compatible, VMFS 6 compatible, and done, and finish. So in the same manner, I am going to so you just need to format this one. You don't need to format this on all ESXi hosts. Once it is formatted, it will be available on all ESXi hosts. So, but I have to I still have to do the second disk, which is going to back to the storage. Go to new data store, and within the new data store I need to select the operating system. This is the operating system, and this is the 99 GB available disk. So here I need to, if you don't have this disk, this is fine, you can work with one disk as well. So this is disk 2. iSCSI share disk 2 and next and done. So this is finish, and so both of the disks are formatted now, so we just need to make sure that if they are available with this server, with all the three servers. So how do we check that out? We can go to the storage, and here I can see the both of the disks. So I can see one disk is right here, the other disk is here, and if I select the disk and change to host, it should show me that this disk is available to all of the hosts. So the disk is available, should be available to all of the hosts. If it is not, it is available to 1 and 2. And why is it not showing the 3? Because the third one is another data center. So for this purpose, for this exercise, I'm going to move the ESXi host into the same data center. So I'm just going to select this, drag this on top of my cluster here. This is a cluster. If you don't have a cluster, this is fine. You can put it on your data center right here. But since I have a cluster, you can create a cluster as well. And in order to create a cluster, you need to, so this failed. I'll show you why is it failed. But in order to make a cluster, you just right click here on the data center and create a cluster. Once the cluster is created, so once the cluster is, then you can move the host inside the cluster. So in here it's not moving, it's saying the operation is not supported, and the reason could be, let me see what is the reason here. So this is moving into this cluster. So first of all, I think I have to move that into the data center. So first I'll move into the data center and then move into the cluster. So this is moved into the data center, and then I can move it in the cluster. So we cannot move it directly to the cluster. You need to move it into the data center and then the cluster. Now I have all three ESXi hosts in the same cluster. You can make a cluster. If you don't have a cluster, that's fine as well. Now since all of them are here, now I can check the storage. The shared storage disk 1 and disk 2 both are present, and they're all present to all ESXi hosts. So you should be able to see all ESXi hosts. So this fulfills the shared storage requirement. The last requirement is in the networking, the port group should be same on all ESXi hosts. So for that, So for that, we need to make sure that all of them have a VM network port group. So this VM network port group should be present on all of them. So it is present on 1 and 3, but this port group is not present on 2. So we need to make that port group available. So for that, go back to, again, hosts and cluster, and go to ESXi2, and then go to virtual switch. Within virtual switch, I can see there is a port group named management, there is a port group named test, but there is no port group named VM network. And so if I look at ESXi1, I can see this port group, and on ESXi3, I can also see that port group. So this should be exactly the same name, VM network, and it should follow exactly this capital letter, small letter. So first three letters are capital, and there is a space, and rest of the letters are small. So I'm gonna make that port group on ESXi2. So you need to add networking. Within networking, we are going to make a port group. We are not making an adapter, VM kernel adapter or physical adapter. We are making a port group. So this is the option. And next, and here this will be part of vSwitch 0, because on this ESXi host there is only one switch, so that's why we cannot change. And we need to make sure, so by default it takes this name, and we need to just make sure this name should be exactly the same as the name that appears on other two servers. So this is all done. So now all three ESXi hosts have a port group name VM network port group. We can verify that by going into VM network, and we can see that this is available on all three of them. So now we have fulfilled all of the requirements. So now let's do a vMotion. So since all of the requirement is done, I have many servers here, but for this demonstration, I'm going to create a new VM. So right click on your data center, center, right click on your cluster, or right click on your data center. You cannot create a VM. You can either create a VM on ESXi host, or you can create from a cluster. So one more time, if you don't have a cluster and you're confused about a cluster, you can just right click on your data center on Toronto data center. So I'm going to just create that here just to show you. Create a new cluster, and it will be called a new cluster. I named it Toronto CL01. So new cluster is made right here, and then all you need to do, just select and drag it on this, drag on the cluster, then they'll be part of that cluster. So just to show you, you need to have a cluster. It's not a mandatory requirement for vMotion, but it's better to have a cluster, because we are going to create a cluster for DRS and STRS later on. I'm going to delete that extra cluster. So once you have it, I'm going to create a new VM. Now we are testing vMotion, and for that I'm going to create a VM. It will be a new VM being created, and so once it is created, I'm just going to name it VM vMotion 01. So I'm just going to name it VM vMotion 01, and it will be created. It's asking me which data center do you want to create this VM. So we are creating that in Toronto data center, and if I can expand that, so that's fine. We just need to create that in Toronto data center. In the next, it will ask me which cluster. So here we can, and which ESXi host. We can select that. We can select one of the ESXi hosts, either 1, 2, or 3, doesn't matter. But what matters is that the storage should be shared storage. If you create a VM in this storage or in this storage, then vMotion will not work. You must have a shared storage. So I'm gonna put that on shared storage disk 1, and next, and this will be ESXi Windows VM. We are not going to install the operating system. And okay, so there is one thing that we need to do, is that in the storage I need to do thin provisioning for the storage, so that all other VMs can be accommodated. So in here, if I go into this, select thin provision, make sure, because then you won't be able to create other VMs in this storage. So this is done. So this VM is being created. I'm going to create another VM and put that on ESXi3. So right click on this, and so once you right click on this and create a new VM, and here you can select a new VM, and in this case this is going into Toronto data center. So I haven't named it properly, so let me name it properly. This will be VM on ESXi03. So this will be VM on ESXi03, so that we know that this VM was initially created on ESXi03, and in here I need to select 03. I'm putting that on 03, but I will keep that on a shared disk. So it will be on a shared disk storage, and next, and next, and in here we just need to make sure that the hardware, the disk should be thin provision. So the disk, and now once the disk is thinly provisioned, we can change it to next here and finish. So now I have two VMs running on this. One VM is this. Let's start this VM. So both of the VMs, we will start both of the VMs here. I'm going to select the VM and start the VM, and also I'm going to start the other VM as well. Let's see if that this is a good test of resources that I have on this laptop. I have how many servers going on? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 servers started on this, and this will be starting VMs as well. So VM number 1, both of the VMs, if we can see, it's not current state. Okay, there is some error message. So one VM is started, and the second VM is not starting up. So first check the first VM. So this VM is running, and in order to just see the VM, what we need to do, I need to open a console here, and the console, so that we can make sure that this running VM is moved from one place to another. So in this case, it's just showing me. Let me start that VM, because vMotion is that when you move a running VM from one ESXi host to another. So for now, this VM is sitting on ESXi1. Let's move that on ESXi2. Let me see if I can open a web console and see where the VM is at the moment. So it is connecting to the VM. So this should, so whatever state it is, the VM is running in this state, and this shouldn't be restarted. It should stay on this state with vMotion. So I'm gonna move that now. So move from migrate. Now this is a test of vMotion. I'm gonna move the compute resource only at the moment and moving that to ESXi2. So I'm gonna move that on ESXi2. So it will run a compatibility check. Compatibility check is fine. Sometime it fails. It will give you a reason as well, and you need to fix that. So on the second one, it will be going on to the current connected network interface adapter 1 use network iSCSI. Okay, so there is a problem with this VM because it's not using the VM network. So I'm going to cancel this here, and so once I cancel this, I need to go back to the VM configuration. So right click on this VM and edit. I need to move that VM. So when we created this VM, we didn't make sure that it is part of VM network. Remember that they all should be part of VM network. So going on to the network adapter, and let's see that if I can make changes while the VM is running. Sometime it won't let us make change. So in this case, I'm going to select this VM network. So make sure that VM is part of this network, then only you will be able to vMotion. So press OK. So this VM is now part of that network. Now we should be able to move this VM to ESXi2. So let's do it. And here I'm just going to select this VM and let's do vMotion. So in this case, I'm going to select ESXi2. It should move to ESXi2, keeping an eye on the VM. VM is running, and so in this case, it will be moving. So currently, network interface cannot use VM network because the destination network on the host is configured for different offload security policies. Okay, so that's another error message that we are seeing, that there are some network policies selected on this ESXi host too. Let's see. So network policies should be exactly the same on both of them. Let's see if I can move it on 03. So 03 and let's select here. So in this 03 is fine. It can move to 03. We need to fix 02 network policies to match all the other ESXi hosts. So, but I'm going to move that for now to 03. So this is done, and so vMotion is, you will see that notification right here. This is vMotion is happening. This is preparing initial machine live migration on the destination host, and it's going on, and at the same time VM is running. So VM is not disconnected, VM is not shut down, VM is not powered off, and the VM should be moved. And right here, once it is moved, the host name should be changed. So once it is done, so it is successfully done. So vMotion is successfully done. Now before finishing this video, what I need to do is I need to go back to ESXi02, and on ESXi02 I would need to just finish this option here. Now first of all, let me change that to, so in here what I need to do is I just need to fix the ESXi networking issue here. So for that I'll go into VM network properties and edit settings, and within the edit settings I need to make sure that the security is exactly the same as others. So on this I just need to change this to accept and accept. Why? Because the default value is reject except for the security policies here. So so in my case this was the error message, and if I can just make sure one time from the other ESXi host, we can go to edit settings here, and within edit setting we can go to security. So three settings are reject, accept. So this should be exactly the same. Now we should be able to move this to ESXi02 while it is running. So vMotion this to the ESXi2 Let's quickly make sure. So ESXi 2, and it will be moving on to the VM network on ESXi, and this time it is compatible, and we can finish vMotion. So now it is, the vMotion is being done and without interrupting any progress. So here so this is the console. Okay, so this was disconnected, but the VM is running. So I'm gonna go back to the VM. VM is still running. This was the browser timed out. That is why it's just saying. Otherwise, the VM is available. So now the VM is basically moved to 02. So and here the screen is showing the VM is still on and it's running, and we have a successful vMotion configuration done in this environment. Now, so you can do the same. So this one is not starting up. Let's start that up as well. Let's see, why is it not starting? Video length is more than half an hour, and I try to make it short, but it so this one is starting up, but this is everything essential is included in this video. So this VM is up as well, and this can be migrated when this is up. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in another video.